Hi, so have you been thinking about how you can add quickly and relatively simply to your current revenue stream? So maybe you're already doing commercial and you're thinking about adding residential, or maybe you've been doing only residential and you've heard great things about commercial and you're not quite sure if you want to check it out. But if your thought process is that you want to consider adding an additional revenue stream to whatever you're already doing, then today's video is going to be just for you, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to you about the differences between the two, and maybe even a little bit of pros and cons. Okay, so again, if your struggle is really just that maybe you have either you started your business or you have a fairly successful business, but you'd like to add just a little bit more income, and you're wondering if maybe it's a good idea to add one or the other of these to your revenue stream. So a lot of times people ask me, they come to me and they say, I want to add this one or I want to add that one, but I don't know enough about it. I don't know what the differences are. I'm not quite sure if it's for me. So that's what we're going to cover in today's video. Okay, so I've got about 6 different points that we're going to cover. So let me get right into those. I would say the first one is going to be your cycle. The buying cycle. So in commercial cleaning, the buying cycle is very long, meaning that although a commercial client may actually use your service every night, they may have cleaning 5 nights a week, it's not something that they're going to be thinking about buying on a regular basis. Typically, the buying cycle for commercial could be anywhere from 1 to 7 years long, meaning that maybe they have a contract of 3 or 4 years, or it's just not something that they review except maybe every 5 years. So even though you may have identified a prospect and you're talking with him or her, it's very likely that they're not going to be ready to actually think about buying that product for quite some time. So that can be a minus in terms of the fact that the buying cycle is so very long. In residential, of course, the buying cycle is quite short. Somebody could decide today, oh, the housekeeping is just absolutely getting away from me. I've got to have a service, or I have a service and I don't like what they're doing and I want to make a change and I want to do it this week. So you could talk to somebody this week and you could start cleaning for them next week. It's a very fast process in residential cleaning, not so much so with commercial. Now, the good and the bad news is that residential is also likely to change relatively quickly. Commercial is not. So once you get the contract, typical notification period, if things are not going well, they want to quit you, you want to quit them, is typically at least 30 days. And because it's such a hassle sort of to make a change on a commercial side, they will typically really try to work with you if things are not going well, to try to see if they can retain the relationship, to get things up to speed. They're not going to just fire you sort of, in a fit of temper the way a residential client might do. So in terms of your buying cycle, that's the difference there. The other thing I wanted to talk about, that would be number 1. Number 2 is going to be the size. So let's say, for example, that you've decided that you want to add, let's say, I don't know if I go on this side so you can see what I'm writing. Let's say you've decided that you want an extra $35,000 to add to your bottom line this year. So a commercial account, let's say you're doing 10,000 square feet or more, so that would run typically about $1,000 a month. So if a typical account is at least $1,000 a month in commercial, let's see, times 12 months, so that would be $12K at the end of the year, and so you would need 3 of those in order to get $36,000 in additional revenue at the end of the year. Now let's say if your residential client, let's say maybe they get service every 2 weeks, and let's say it's $150 each time, so maybe it's $300 a month. So $300 a month versus your $1,000 a month, so there's a huge difference there. Times the 12 months is $3,600 a month. So you would need 10 new clients in order to get an additional $36,000 in revenue. Okay, so to add $36,000 to your bottom line, you're going to need 10 new people there, where you're only going to need 3 new people in commercial. So there's a huge difference in terms of the size. probably the reason for that is our next little component, which is the frequency. With residential, your client is likely to have service either 2 times a month or 4 times a month. With commercial, at 10,000 square feet or more, it's very likely to be 5 days per week. So those are the variations there. Another important consideration is the time of day. So your commercial client is very likely to want service at nighttime, and your residential client is most likely to want service during the day. Now, if you're doing residential, you're probably going to be working, let's say, from maybe 8 o'clock in the morning till about 5 o'clock at night. Commercial, you're probably going to be starting at either 5 or 6 p.m. and typically you'll run until about midnight. Now, personally, I don't like to do accounts where you can't start until 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night, and then you have your cleaners out until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. For a variety of reasons, I just feel like that's not as attractive an account. There's some safety concerns. If you've got people going out late at night, there's a likelihood that they're going to fall asleep, not get up, go to work, etc. I'm in Las Vegas, and so there actually are some accounts that you can only start at 3 o'clock in the morning for whatever reason. I tend to shy away from those just because we found that the sort of the white collar office space is kind of an ideal market for us. One of the things that you want to think about if you're already doing, let's say, residential and you're thinking about adding commercial, is now you're working both day and night. So, just something to consider. That's even more the reason why maybe you want to take on accounts that you can start fairly early in the evening, so that instead of working 24/7, you're open from 8 in the morning until midnight. So that's a consideration there. The other thing that I want to talk about is the level of difficulty. I think this is a really huge factor to consider. In my opinion, commercial is much, much easier to do. It's the same exact activity day after day after day. You sweep, you mop, you vacuum, you replenish the restrooms, you clean the break room. It's very straightforward. It's very simple. People tend to be pretty reasonable in a commercial setting about what they can expect for their $100 or $500. They understand that this is a cost of doing business. It's just like keeping the lights on or having phones or, pest control. It's something that they have to typically outsource. They can't, the CEO is not going to be willing to clean the building. You also can't get the office manager to do it. So they don't really have the option to do it themselves like you have with a residential account. So I found that these people are much more difficult to please, much more difficult to convince to spend the money, because in the back of their mind they're always thinking, well, I could do it myself, or am I really willing to pay $35 or $40 an hour to get that done? These people, it's not their hard-earned money. It's a line item on their budget. They understand that they're going to have to pay to get it done. So I have found the level of difficulty both in closing the sale and in working with them once the sale is closed to be much, much different. And then the final component that we're going to talk about, and this one sort of goes with the last one, is hiring. I have found that hiring for commercial is very simple and very straightforward, because if you're doing facilities that are 10,000 square feet or more, it's very likely that there's a janitor closet on site. You put all of your equipment in there. You don't have to have somebody to carry your stuff around in their car, to go from place to place, to have transportation to get to and from the different jobs. For example, let's say you've got a building that's 20,000 square feet and you're charging, $2,000 a month. Let's say it's 20 hours a week to service it. So that's four hours a night. You can easily hire somebody to go out. They go to one location, they work for 4 hours, and then they go home. They could theoretically even ride the bus or get a ride to that job. And the work is very straightforward. The people aren't going to be, wanting to change the day and the time and change their week on a regular basis like your residential client is. So for that reason, I have found that hiring for commercial is very simple. And I have found that hiring for residential is a lot more hard, because again, you've got to have somebody that not only has a car, but that's willing to carry your stuff around in their car. They've got to be doing a lot of driving, wear and tear, stuff in and out of the car. You're also going to need a lot more attention to detail, so you're going to need a much more expert sort of a technician on the residential side than you are on the commercial side. There's not a lot of exotic finishes or things that you have to worry about in terms of damaging, you know, people's property as you do on the residential. So for that reason, I found that the commercial is just really simple and straightforward. So those are the main topics that I wanted to cover in terms of pros and cons, or even just what the differences really are. So if you're looking at this at any place other than at my website, be sure to head on over there to buildmycleaningbusiness.net, and I would highly recommend, if you want to find out more about how to get one or other of these clients, you can either check out my Cleaning Business Accelerator, where I lay out for you the 4 elements that you need to have a successful cleaning business, or you also might look at the video course that I have that shows you exactly how I built my $800,000 cleaning service business. It's a 4-part video course. It's super simple, it's easy, you love it, and it's exactly step by step. So make sure and download either one or both of these items so that you can, now that you know what the differences are, you can find out how you can go about, you know, adding one or the other or both of those if your business is new. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you soon.